What's going on, guys? Ryan Snod here at Rhymes with Odd, and welcome to another video. In today's video, we're going to be talking about my custom PC that I built a couple months ago for video editing and how you can get started with a similar system. I made the switch from my iMac, which is right here, a couple months ago, and I wanted to do just a quick review of the setup that I got. I wanted to show you what I did for myself, show you what parts I got, and then give you guys some of the pros and cons of switching from Mac to PC in terms of video editing and the quality of the videos you can create. Alright, so the first question you're probably asking is, Ryan, why did you switch to a custom PC and what kind of pushed you to this? And there's two main reasons why I did this. One was to have way faster rendering times and computing power because of the sole purpose that I'm using this computer for, which is video editing. And the second really pain in the butt reason why I did switch was all the crashing and rendering issues that I was having with a slower quality machine. I've been using Mac for quite a while too, so switching over to PC was a little bit of something to get used to, but I'm going to compare and contrast some of the pros and cons of doing this. We'll talk about some of the parts that you guys can pick up for yourselves if you're wanting to build your own custom PC, and we'll really talk about the reasons why you want to do this for yourself if you're a video editor. Now, when I first got into college and I started doing video, I had a Toshiba, like a really basic, crappy PC that I picked up on like a Black Friday deal for college. Now, this computer was not designed for video editing, and I didn't even know that's what I wanted to do until probably 2 years into having this computer. So I upgraded from that to a MacBook Pro laptop that had an i5 processor and a bunch of other specs that we won't get into. And that was a great upgrade for me personally. So I had that one for a while. And then here about a year ago, I got an iMac for a desktop editing solution. Again, upgrading some of the specs with that. And then after having this iMac, I have then now transitioned to the custom PC that I have now. Really the core purpose of why I switched and upgraded to a much more expensive, much more robust editing software is because I was ready for it. I've been in editing videos for about 5 or 6 years, and I just know the time that I'm losing every single edit, that I'm waiting for rendering times or the software crashes, or I just have a lot of things that are coming up while I'm editing in my workflow that slows me down. But time really is money, and for me, I am losing a lot of hours every night of my personal life, and any time that I can get back for myself or to spend with my fiance or play with my dogs or do anything for myself, I want that time back. So having a faster editing machine really does make me get that time back really quickly. So if you're looking at building your own custom PC, there's a couple specs that I recommend you pay attention to when you're doing so. So the first spec that I would recommend you look into is the RAM. I notably had very, very slow RAM on my first 2 to 3 computers that I had, and it really does translate into slow video editing. So having more RAM is really going to be a good benefit for you. On this new custom PC, I installed 64 gigabytes of RAM. It's definitely enough for this point in my editing career, and I can really see kind of the processing go a lot faster. After RAM, the next thing you want to look at is storage space. Now, most editors will tell you that you want to save your work on an external hard drive, but having internal SSD storage is really, really helpful because you might have a lot of downloads, music tracks, video assets that you download to your actual machine, and the more you clog that up with all that stuff, the slower your editing time will be and the slower your computing power is. So for me on this new machine, I have 2 terabytes of internal SSD storage in addition to the G drives that I store all my stuff on. So this is really something that you want to take into account when you're building your own PC, is making sure that you have enough SSD storage for yourself. If you're going to build your own, I would definitely recommend at least 1 terabyte, if not more than that. And I would definitely recommend, if you are video editing, is to put all those files on external hard drives, because if you haven't filled up your current computer, you will with the more stuff that you shoot, and the higher resolutions and all those things take up a lot of space. So make sure that you have a large external hard drive that you can offload all that footage on so it doesn't slow down your main computer. The other important thing is having a really fast processor. Intel has a bunch of great ones. Mine on my computer is an AMD processor. Having a strong processor is going to be really that core function in your computer that when you are rendering out files, when you are scrubbing through footage, that's really the workhorse of your machine and how that's going to get through all the video files. So having a really good processor is important as well. And then for personal preference for me, the last piece of it was having a widescreen curved monitor. I've just been using 1 or 2 standard screens, and I just wanted a really large editing workspace. I kept noticing myself having to zoom in and zoom out on the timeline when I'm editing, and it really does take a lot longer to edit stuff when you don't have a proper workspace. So having that ultra wide monitor was really important for me personally to make sure that I have enough space to edit all my stuff in my timeline. The price tag for my computer was $2,100, and a lot of you guys might go, $2,100 bucks, like that's a lot of money. I'll admit that is a lot of money, but comparing the PC that I built custom to a iMac that is comparable, that is pre-built, was about $6,000. Being about, $4,000 difference, that is a huge jump just to have the Apple logo. It wasn't really something for me that I wanted to stay married to. If you don't know how to build your own PC, there are thousands of videos on YouTube on how to do it. But for me personally, I did not want to watch it, and I didn't want to try and go through the hours and hours that it would take to learn how to build one of these things. I actually went on a Facebook group and found a guy locally, his name was Joe, that wanted to come and help me put it together. He loves building computers in his spare time, and he's like really, really good at it. So shout out to Joe for helping me out with building this. So the biggest pro for me was definitely the faster rendering speed. Like I mentioned, that was probably the main reason that I did make the change, was I needed to get things out faster, and just that speed was really important to me. Another benefit was scrubbing through 4K footage without any issue and not having to do a bunch of proxies. With this new machine, I can actually put it on full quality and scrub through 4K footage, and very rarely ever have to pause the video or have any type of stumbling through the footage. Another benefit is that I can run multiple programs and not have any issues. So if I'm running Photoshop and After Effects and Premiere and Spotify, and if I'm watching Netflix all at the same time, I can run all those programs and not have any issues. It can also be upgraded in the future really easily. If I do want to add more RAM or a different processor, I can literally unscrew it, buy the different part, plug it in, and it should work just fine. And finally, it just looks good. I mean, look at this thing. It's got color spinning around in it. I can change the colors. It's nice and slick. I like the white shell, and it's just very good to look at, I think. One of the biggest cons for me is figuring out the Windows operating system and the user experience using a Windows product. Like I mentioned, I use a lot of Apple products, and I'm kind of used to the user interface, so I had to try and reteach myself how to use some of the apps. And one of the biggest things for me was not being able to preview files, and I did hear from a friend that there is an app. I believe the app is called Quick Look or Quick View. I'll link it up in the description box, but super handy tool. All you have to do is hit spacebar once it's installed, and it'll preview the file that you're selected in your browser. If you are saving your stuff to your own hard drives and you are going to plan to switch, try and make sure that you've prepared yourself for that and you save them on neutral agnostic drives. I have a 10 terabyte for all of my archive footage, and then I have an active 6 terabyte that I use for my current projects for this year. So really my advice to video editors out there is use what you have. When I first started out in my video business when I was in college, I had probably one of the worst laptops of all time to edit videos on, and I somehow figured out how to use Adobe Premiere in that process. As you start to grow your business and you start to get more clients and make more money, you can reinvest that money into getting a better computer setup for yourself. Don't feel like you have to go out and buy, a $2,000 setup for yourself if you're just starting out. For me, it took about 6 years to get to this point, so definitely understand that with getting something like this, you do buy yourself a lot more time. You'll render things out a lot faster, and you'll just make your editing workflow a whole lot easier for yourself. And also, if you're shopping around for computers, really just ask the question of why. Why do you feel like you need to get a new editing computer? Is it because, Johnny down the street has a nicer one and you saw his on Instagram and you thought, man, I really need to get one? What is it going to give you, and why do you feel like you need to upgrade that piece of gear? And the best computer or camera is the one that you have. So really leverage what you have now to create some really cool videos, and then use that money to upgrade your equipment as you go on here. Now, like I mentioned, I will link up my PC part picker and the links to the stuff that I actually use for my own build. So if you're wanting to replicate the exact computer that I have, you can do that, or shop around and see what some of the better options are out there. Now, if you have more questions about the editing setup that I have, or about just switching over from Apple to PC in general, or video editing questions, make sure to hit me up in the comment section below, and I'll make sure to answer as many questions as I can. That about does it for me, guys. My name's Ryan Snod. It rhymes with odd, and we'll see you in next week's video. Peace!